And we're here. Hey, how you doing, Colin McClone?
Where's my screen at?
Where's your screen at? We're getting our bearings today, folks. It's the second podcast where we talk about dollars and cents and we keep it real. And we get a little bit away from all the fluff and happy talk of money and we get a little more into the nitty gritty and the strategy and basically wake you guys up to the fact that there's lots of opportunities out there for you. So, Colin and I were speaking a bit before we got on this podcast, and we were figuring out how we wanted to approach this particular one. And basically, what we were saying is that people get very much wrapped up in their own assumptions and their own preconceptions of what is or is not possible. Um, and you hear it all the time, right? Tony Robbins is always talking about that your standards, your beliefs, these are all things that will basically determine your destination as you go through life. And, if you have low standards, you won't exceed them or not predictably and consistently exceed them. If you don't believe that something's possible, your brain will put zero energy into constructing a path to get you there.
Yep.
So if you're walking around under with certain beliefs, assumptions, and preconceptions about what is or is not possible for you, then you're going to probably have a very self-limiting attitude. And what I always tell people is that if you're ever curious about where your comfort zone ends, look at where your assumptions are.
Yeah.
Because very often we carry assumptions as a way to escape the due diligence. In other words, actually going out into the real world and finding out whether something is possible or not. And we hear it all the time. So what do you think, Colin? What are some of the common things that you hear people say or run into?
Yeah. I agree 100% with that, and I think that's a good launching point for the discussion today. Would be to kind of wrangle in the ideas of what it means to be an investor, what it means to be an entrepreneur, how anybody and everybody can do it. And just kind of tackle a lot of the insecurities, the limiting beliefs, and a lot of the I would call them myths, even urban legends, or just false associations that people have when it comes to investing. I think a few of the big ones are sequentially. One would be people are scared. They don't know, the jargon. They don't know the technical terminology or the nomenclature that people use for fiscal terms. So they hear something they don't understand, and instead of necessarily looking it up or sourcing information or talking to somebody more intelligent or educated than themselves, they shut down. I'm here to say that anybody and everybody, if you have access to a smartphone or a computer, if you make more than $1 a year, hopefully your expenses are less than $1 a year at that point, right? We're talking about budgeting, right? You can invest. You can get your life going. You could open up a retirement account. You can open up a trading account. You can work in your personal development. You can do all those things. And, I think a lot of people, they just kind of get analysis paralysis. They look at the big picture and they get scared. Even myself, I in the world of academia, I was introduced to a lot of things regarding investing, none of which stuck. None. Nothing I learned in college at all actually really helped me much. Even down to how to click that buy or sell button on my Scottrade account. I mean, really, I think a lot of people just don't understand it. Even the concept of explaining a Roth IRA as a basket account, a tax saving account, you have to explain details like this to people because a lot of things that are out there are just very complex. So I think you need to make the information friendly and palatable, which I think you do a good job of, and just break it down into just task-oriented steps that people could do. Wrangling in your own budget, getting control of your own finances. Step one. Number two, writing all your ideas down on paper. Number 3, taking those ideas and formulating them into goals and plans. Number 4, turning that into a task-oriented action process, which you could do yourself or delegate to a stronger team around you. From that point, it's really not hard. How do I become wealthy? Open a Roth IRA. Let's say that works for you in your particular age, your economic dynamic. Okay, you want to have, let's say, we'll keep the number simple and small and humble because we're trying to make this understandable to everybody. Let's say $1,000 is your first goal. You want to save $1,000 for your first year to invest in your retirement and your future. I think that's a humble goal that most working people could achieve. And at that point, you just learn how to get through the mechanics of the trading. Learn how to use the platforms. There's a lot of tutorials. If you work with TD Bank, it's a brick and mortar location. Scottrade is a brick and mortar location. There's lots of great opportunities and different things, which you're more than willing to offer to us or suggest in the comments below. But it's really not hard. I think that, I've had 18-year-old kids finally get their own IRAs going, and it's automated, and they're doing great. They see growth and potential in their future, and there's nothing more powerful than that.
Mhm.
There's nothing more powerful than just grabbing a self-help book and doing a little reading. There's nothing more powerful than realizing that and I think you taught me this, and it really makes so much more sense now, is that those guys on Wall Street, their degrees and their uncle working at Goldman Sachs or whatever it may be that got them the job doesn't necessarily mean that they're more intelligent than you. It doesn't necessarily mean that they share a more accurate worldview. In fact, arguably, one could posit the argument that they're actually practicing flawed ideology when it comes to investing, and they're actually teaching the wrong things. But have no fear, everybody. I mean, no matter what it is, you could do something today to better your situation for tomorrow. And with smartphones and the internet available, there's really no excuse not to just look up the basics. If you don't understand what a stock means, Google. You don't understand, it's really simple. Later, we're going to get more into the nitty-gritty of how to do things step by step. But I just want everyone to know that this is not a world that's not open to everybody. This is, I was self-taught. I didn't understand much about investing. I learned a lot more from the books that I picked up. I've learned a lot more from talking to you. I've learned a lot more from talking to investment coaches. And I've learned a hell of a lot more from my professors after class than I did during the class. So I just want to let everyone know that don't be scared. You're going to do this. This is something that everybody can do.
I think that what sets those who succeed apart from those who basically plateau or just to reach a level of mediocre progress is that they are constantly learning, and they don't shut themselves off to where those sources of information come from.
Yes.
Because like you said, if you go to school, part of the reason a lot of people don't get it in school is because in my opinion, the jargon, the mechanics, the regulations behind how people are allowed and can invest is actually designed, in my opinion, to be overly complicated in order to intimidate the average investor. It is a competitive advantage of the financial industry because when the average person looks at something, whether it be the terminology of the stock market or the calculations in the options market or or anything like that, they're going to say, my brain can't fathom this. I'm going to go to an expert and let them manage it. And what we've seen, what has happened with that, because you're supposedly turning to an expert who can do a better job than you can, and yet less than 4% of mutual funds beat the market over a 3-year look-back period, and yet they charge you a fee for it.
Yes.
If I hire a contractor, my assumption is that he can build a stronger, better more quality house in less time than I can, and that's what allows him to call himself a professional.
Yeah.
But if you actually do research, they actually put to the test Wall Street analysts against the chimpanzee. I'm not
Yeah.
joking.
No, I've seen this. I've seen this before.
And for picking
I've seen a few studies like this. Yeah.
I think the chimp won. The
Yeah.
chimp won. And so basically what that means is these guys can't justify their own existence. Now, I had a couple interesting stories this week. The first, actually, I had a notary come over. We had to get some paperwork notarized. And so he saw my credit card. It was a TD Ameritrade credit card. And he said, "Oh, I love Ameritrade." He said, "I use them too." And he said, and he was, we started talking about the different things that we do. And apparently he had worked on Wall Street for years.
Wow.
And he was also like a regional manager for Scottrade and all that.
Interesting.
And he said, when we got done with everything, he took out a piece of paper and he says, "You want to see what my portfolio looks like over the past 20 years? And he did the graph thing. Okay. And he basically just drew a squiggle line sideways, up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, this guy is a professional. And what he's admitting to me right now is that he can't do better than breaking even. And he can't even control the mood swings that his portfolio is going through.
Yeah. And that's all he knows. That's all he knows.
Yeah. Yeah, because in the financial industry, what they teach you is to lower your expectations. Ride out the waves, be happy with single-digit returns.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. If like, let's say you're an executive and you're making $200,000 or $300,000 a year, and you're socking away $20,000 or $30,000 a year, then you could do that. You can just save and have investments that do a little, that outpace inflation and have a little bit of growth, and you're going to have a nice nest egg. But for the average Joe who struggles to put $100 or $200 into their IRA every month, and telling
you have to make it count. Everything counts.
Yeah.
Inflation is real. Changing markets is real. Unforeseen occurrences is real. The regular Joe Schmo, unless you're in that upper income echelon that you mentioned, the regular folks, they're fighting to just milk the most out of their account that they can. They're just trying to make everything count, and it hurts when there's losses. It really, really hurts. So, I understand that. And there's a lot of misinformation out there. And that's one of the things is, like, for example, I do relatively well with my trading. I'm very proud of what I do. That being said, you're a hell of a lot better trader than I am. You've got a better track record. You've got a better return. I admit that. I bow to you when it comes to that type of stuff. Would I be better off giving you all my money to invest? Yeah, absolutely. I probably would. If I gave you all my money right now.
I'm going to Vegas. I'm going to Vegas next week. That's what I
might still be better off.
Blackjack.
But that being said, I'd probably do better with you. But I feel like in any aspect of life, whether it's in the entrepreneurial field or the world of investing, anytime you relinquish control or you let somebody else be at the helm of your investing, that's got to be the right person and perfect scenario and perfect environment. Otherwise, it's a very dangerous thing. I don't know about you, but I like to drive my car. I like to feel like I'm in control. I like to be at the helm. And if someone else is driving my car, they better be a better driver than me. That being said, fight to have control. Don't necessarily relinquish everything. Like you said, the intellectual release. Robert Kiyosaki talks about surrounding yourself by intelligent people and a strong team. Just because Robert Kiyosaki hires the best of the best lawyers, or the best of the best real estate personnel, it doesn't mean he doesn't understand basic legal nomenclature. It doesn't mean he doesn't understand the fundamentals of real estate. You need to educate yourself. You need to educate yourself on a very basic elementary level. And I'm not kidding. There's no shame. If you looked at my Google search, it's childlike, the things that I look up. It's childlike. You would probably laugh at me, okay? But guess what? I've learned a hell of a lot of things by asking those questions, okay? I've learned a hell of a lot of information by not being afraid to look stupid or feel stupid. You just gotta ask, and you just have to be willing to adapt and learn. Otherwise, you're at the mercy of the mutual fund leaders, and you have to think about fees and can I trust this person? What is their legal obligation to do the best thing they can for me, which is a different discussion we can navigate through another day. But there's a lot more to be said and done when you're giving someone else your money to control. So at any time you could at least understand what's going on with your money is an intelligent thing. Whether you're delegating or not, you have to know the basics of the game.
You have to know enough to know whether somebody else is doing a good job for you.
Absolutely.
Part of the reason the financial industry has been able to get away with so much is because of the fact that they have also hijacked and taken control of the information available about investing. Because if they have positioned themselves as the authority. Anybody who is allowed to invest for you is also ordained by the Security Exchange Commission as being, they're the real deal. They have the Series 7, and they are the only ones that are able to do anything besides just provide information for educational purposes. They're the only ones that can actually tell you the best way to do things.
Yeah.
And so what happens is if you read any of these standard orthodox investment books, the terminology is solid, right? They teach you, okay, what is a stock? What is a share? What is an index? What is an ETF? What is a mutual fund? And they teach you the mechanics. They give you, you have to learn your basics. You have to learn to read and to write and to do basic.
And it's easy and go at your own pace.
Yeah, and then build off of that.
Mm-hmm.
But on the same token, by maintaining control and by constantly learning and exploring, you start to see that a lot of what the mainstream does, just like in any other area of life, is fundamentally flawed.
Mm-hmm.
If you think of it this way, if you make average decisions, you get average results.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you make worse than average decisions, you get worse than average results. If you emulate the best, if you see what the best are doing, and you study them and you copy them, you're probably going to get similar results.
Yeah.
They followed Warren Buffett for 30 years, right? And everybody loves talking about Warren Buffett and listening to Warren Buffett and saying how great Warren Buffett is, yet nobody does what he does. And here's the kicker, guys. You can look up what Berkshire Hathaway buys, and when it buys it, and at what price it buys it at, and just do the same thing, and you are on the same page as Warren Buffett. They said that I think they followed him for like 30 years, right? From the I think 70s, and they said basically if you just bought what he bought in the same month that he did, and sold what he sold in the same month that he did, your average return would have been 36% annual.
Mind blowing.
Right?
Mind blowing. I mean, listen.
Nobody does it. Everybody says, well, he can do it, but I can't. Well, just
I don't know.
He does.
I don't know. I mean, to me that's a little silly. And I mean, in the world of baseball, you're taught to mimic the swing of the Mantles, of the Ted Williams, of the Babe Ruths. I mean, you mimic the greats.
Yeah.
If it's got the swing and it's working, if it's connecting, if it's producing, if the numbers are out there, you kind of got to be fooled. Either you're a genius and you're a trailblazer, okay, and you're brushing a new trail and you're that's different. But if it's not broken, don't fix it. Use mentors that are more intelligent than you, And that's also, like you said, talk about basic information. I don't know about you, but when I go to the mechanic to get my car fixed, I like to know the basics. I like to know what a motor mount is. So when he tells me that it's broken, I can tell him he's crazy. You know, you want to know the basics. You don't have to be an expert, but take the time. This is your homework assignment, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not familiar with the basics of investing, take 1 or 2 definitions a day. You read something, you don't understand what it says, write it down and just Google that. What is? I really can't make this any more simple for you folks, all right? Start the self-development process, education process, to understand the basics so that, you know, someone like Herbie doesn't feel insecure enough to posture and use the crazy jargon and to make it complex. There's no reason to, okay? But if you're talking to a Wall Street type or an upper executive who has to puff his own ego by using this nomenclature day by day with his colleagues and peers, you're gonna want to know what they're talking about. Okay, you're gonna want to know what they're talking.
Handshake. It's a secret handshake.
Yeah,
and I see it all the time.
Love,
right?
For damn sure. Yeah.
You know, and it does make you feel kind of good when you're speaking your own exclusive elite language that nobody else knows, and you know, like I see that a lot in. You know, if you're bullshitting with real estate investors, you know, people love or stock investors, they love throwing out those acronyms. It's like, oh, what's your ROI and what's the ARV and you know, and and the whole thing is
by making it more complex, they think it lends value to what they do. By making it more complex, they feel that you got to make the degree worth something. That pretty piece of paper they have on the wall has got to be worth something. It cost them $380,000. It better be worth something.
Well,
so to produce that value, they need to make it look like it's more difficult than it is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. And not only that, that's what impresses people, so that people give them their money. So
yes.
So
it's a mystique.
So, but I mean, and there's nothing wrong with feeling good about learning something. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. You should have a sense of accomplishment.
Yes.
And you have learned a very difficult area of life that most people struggle in, and you've gone in and you've detangled it and you've mastered it. You should feel good and you should feel confident and you should feel like you have an edge for having mastered something.
I hope so.
Because part of that is what makes you resonate as a leader if you ever want to help other people in that area.
Yeah.
But at the same time, one of the worst things that destroys an investor is that they care more about impressing people than they do about getting actual quantitative results.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, they actually Peter Lynch, who wrote One Up on Wall Street, actually talked about this.
Yeah.
And he said that basically doctors were owning tech companies and computer scientists were owning medical companies. And the reason why is because when they were on the golf course, they wanted something impressive to talk about. And nobody would be the guy that was proud to say they owned the gravel pit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They always wanted to be the guy, I bought the hot new stock. I got in on the news. I got the exciting new IPO. Mm-hmm. And then what would happen is, well, but you don't even understand it. The doctor should have bought the medical company.
Yeah.
The computer technician should have brought IBM.
Yep.
You know, and meanwhile, the guy who understands his gravel pit business is probably making more than both of them.
Yes.
And so the bottom line is that ego just destroys you. And it will actually, and the thing about ego is it also shuts down learning, because when you think you know it all, you don't go out and say, wow, I don't know this, or I need to get better at this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, that's the other thing. It's not just your comfort zone, it's also ego that gets in the way. You know, I mean, the bottom line is the best investors of the world are learning machines, and they're humble. Mm-hmm. They're so humble. Listen to Warren Buffett talk. He's certain about nothing. You should see him interview, and he'll basically say, well, I don't know, could be, maybe, I'm not really sure. They're happy to admit the extent of their competence and where it ends.
Yeah.
And if you were able to do that with yourself, first of all, it would challenge you to learn more, and second of all, you probably would make
Yes.
better decisions because of the fact that you're not trying to impress yourself or
Mhm.
anyone else. You know, we're our own worst enemies,
Yeah.
and if we could just get out of the way of we learn these principles when we're kids, right? We
Yeah.
learn about things like delayed gratification, where, you know, are you going to be the ant that, or are you going to be the grasshopper? Are you going to be
Yeah.
the one that's partying, or are you going to be the one that's preparing for a rainy day?
Exactly.
We learn about humility. We learn about knowledge is power. We learn these things as kids, and we talk the talk, but for some reason, when we get into adult mode and nobody else can tell us what to do, we get into some of the worst habits imaginable. We overspend.
Yeah.
We buy on credit because we want
Yeah.
what we want now. We don't invest anything for the future. We do what's comfortable instead of what's going to set us up for long-term success.
Yes.
And oh, so when people tell me that investing is hard or risky, I say it's not. Most people who you see who are stuck, who haven't gotten anywhere, who've
Yeah.
fallen short, who've gone backwards, it has less to do with the good decisions they made
Yeah.
and more to do with them breaking their own rules.
Absolutely. And I think that that's a good segue into the next portion of the show, which we're going to talk about. We'd mentioned, obviously, making things easy to understand, palatable. People should not fear the approach. Anyone could do this if they put their mind to it. Step one. Another big part to clear the air for people that are interested in getting involved in this and being a part of this and improving their lives is the fear factor, the risk. And this is something that we have to discuss as well, is that without fail, nobody knows shit. Everyone wants to be an expert. Everyone's going to tell you what to do. Everyone's going to have an opinion. A lot of people are going to have, their own 2 cents, maybe without the dollars. All right. But they're going to have a lot of opinions to give you. And one of those opinions, those fear-driven, really sad opinions, is the stock market or investing is like gambling. It's risky. You might as well throw your money down the toilet bowl. It's like throwing a dart at a dartboard. You never know what you're going to. That's all bullshit. It's all fucking stupid bullshit. And let me tell you something right now. Anytime I hear some negative shit like that, I walk away. Until they're willing to educate themselves or realize the realities about the world around them and the markets and how things work, I'm not going to feed into that type of negativity. And I'll tell you right now, it's a lot more risky not to do anything. They say, oh, it's risky to own a business. It's a lot fucking riskier to work a 9 to 5 and never chase self-actualization in your dream, and to never open something that could be a standardized machine that could make money for you and create true freedom and liberty. That's a lot more scary. That's a lot more risky to me worrying about retirement on Social Security. I don't know about you, Herbie, but I'm a little worried about retiring on Social Security, all right?
Yeah.
It's risky not to do. You can't lose the game if you're not in it. You got to have skin in the game. You have to be involved and you have to try, okay? Because the whole idea of things being risky, in a logical manner, if you follow the logic train, what creates risk? Well, I could hedge against my risk by being more educated. I could hedge against my risk by having more options. If I only have one investment strategy in my hands, I'm a slave to that. But if I have an option to maybe, pun intended, to make money in a sideways market, I've got a lot more skill sets. Now I could be the quarterback. Now I could be the receiver. Now I could be the running back. I could be the tackle. I could be the safety. I could be the tight end. I could play any position. It doesn't matter. The market's going down. It works inversely to metals. I'm buying the metals. I got to hold right now. I'm going to hold. These dividends are great. It's great. I'm reinvesting in my FRIP. That's great. I'm doing long hold conservative investing. That's great. But you have different skill sets, different knowledge bases at your disposal. It's not risky. Risky is being a one-trick pony. Risky is not giving it a shot. Delete that. Right now, take a deep breath. Anyone who's ever told you that you trying to take control of your finances and your future is risky, you know where to tell them where the door is. All right? You know where they can go with that mentality.
Well,
Not with this show. Not with this show.
You know what my mentor told me? He said that the financial experts of today are like the Dark Ages monks that convinced people it was not in their own best interest to learn how to read. Leave that up to the professionals.
The Bible is sacred language that can only be interpreted through us divine spirits. For you plebeian, for you regular folks, for you peasants. Yeah. Fuck no.
And not to make this a religious thing, but what we're saying is that
it's analogous.
When the information became available, society prospered. And it's the same thing where right now, most of what is available for people out there is still very largely a secret. It is not talked about. And
right.
You have the common folk, the peasants, are taught that you go to school, you take out school loans, you get a mortgage, you rely on one income stream, which is your job, and the only investing that you typically will see them do is investing into their pension or 401k. They might have an IRA on the side. They buy mutual funds.
If you do that, you're still ahead of most people. So God bless you.
Yeah, because at least you're not living paycheck to paycheck. Nothing wrong with that.
You can do better.
Yes. But I was just talking with one of my colleagues the other day who works with taxes, and he found out about what we were doing. Like right now we're looking at a property that has good prospects because basically there's over $100,000 difference between what the asking price is and what comparable properties are selling for in that area.
Value.
So there's meat on the bone. So to speak.
Yes.
And he came at me with all these assumptions. It's like, well, you can't know what the market's going to do, and you can't know what if these costs come up, and da 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 da. And every single assumption he came up with, I basically refuted it by saying, well, no, you do know that because you know what your costs are. You know what your taxes are. You know what the insurance is. You know what your attorney is going to charge you. You know what your recording fees are. You build
down to the 5 P's. Proper planning prevents poor performance.
And I said, we calculated every number, and we built in a 15% margin of error, and we're expecting another 15% profit margin. I said, and I told him, I said, even in 2008, when the subprime mortgage mess came out, houses did not go down 30% like that. It wasn't like the stock market. And again, it's assumptions. You have people, and if they just tell themselves something enough, it becomes truth to them, regardless of how little actual physical evidence has ever come into their life, which would actually support that conclusion, simply because their self-talk has happened enough. It has turned an idea into their truth, their reality, their perception. And basically he just, he had nothing left for me to say because I had answered all. And this is why I love it when people grill me, because I don't have to puff up, because I have the content necessary to basically refute all these assumptions that people carry around. But the bottom line is that the only thing that this guy ever did, ever probably will do, is invest into his 401k, which has very limited funds, and limited options. And he has to basically make his single-digit returns work, which is fine. But he knew nothing about how a real estate deal worked.
Mhm.
He knew nothing about how real estate lenders make money.
Mhm.
He knew nothing about how alternative options in the market make money.
Mhm.
He knew nothing. He didn't know. He didn't know that he could set up his own solo 401k. That, unlike his 401k in his job, could do things like lend and invest in real estate
Mhm.
and things like that. He didn't know anything about that. He
There's
thinks
always more.
so. So my whole thing is, you have to be careful of your assumptions because they are what's going to keep you low.
Yeah.
And if you start speaking, it's good that you speak your assumptions because then people can educate you. But
Assumptions should be posited in the question form.
yeah,
What would one do if? How
exactly.
should one think about this? How do you feel about this possible risk? Or I've heard there's nothing. Listen, I was talking to my friend Bill. Bill, you know Bill, great guy.
Yeah,
He's in the loan and the banking and the real estate game. He's a really knowledgeable guy. And I said some ignorant shit to him. I was wrong. I was misinformed. I had read the wrong things. I had been told the wrong things, and I had regurgitated what I thought was sound. And he educated me.
yeah.
He told me I was wrong, arguably stupid and far off, and just explained it. And I walked away a hell of a lot more intelligent from that conversation by just asking questions and admitting that I don't know. It's okay to say, hey, I heard this, buddy. How do you feel or think about that? And like you said, the assumptions are key. And another important thing, moving on to the tertiary or the third point here, beyond the conquering the fear and beyond conquering those fatalistic ideas that it's too risky to invest and everything else. That other thing, the third thing that I really want to talk about is, and it's analogous to my upbringing in the martial arts world, was any martial arts instructor, coach, shifu, sisuk, sensei, whatever, that I've ever trained with in my entire life. The ones that I was given the most knowledge from were the ones who weren't afraid to give it away. Okay? A good instructor, a good coach, a good mentor doesn't want to make you good. They want you to be better than them. Number one, because if I'm a mentor to somebody, my insecurity would have to be really fucking strong to say I'd have to hold back some information or some secrets or in the world of martial arts, some techniques. God forbid my student becomes more powerful and omniscient and knowledgeable than no, that's great. Let me ask you a question. And I like to just to make people's brains kind of hurt for a second. I use a term called altruistic capitalism. In the world of altruistic capitalism, all of the knowledge you yourself have given me in regards to investing, it's helped me out, right?
Yeah, I'd say so.
I made a little more money, right?
I hope so.
Did it hurt you?
Oh yeah, I was actually
the exact amount that my numbers jumped, did yours drop?
No, because
Would you ever hold back information from people who were intelligent enough to open that doorway and say, Herbie, I need some help?
nope. And you can ask anybody who actually works with me that even if there is one component of our financial education program that we charge for, but it's not based on the knowledge, it's based on the time it takes to develop people.
Yes.
And because and also I have other people who are on my team who need to be taken care of.
Well, first of all, Herbie, if you were charging based on the knowledge, your sticker entry would be at least $1 million for anything you've got to teach. If you're talking about, if you were putting a number on that. What I think you're doing is just charitable at this point, which is awesome.
Yeah,
we're all very happy about it. We're all very excited. Everyone that's working with you, we're happy. This is great.
Anybody who understands the power of compounding growth and our track record tends to view it as a pretty good deal.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, part of the reason that we're not greedy is because we don't need to take in a lot of money because we know how to grow it.
Yeah.
We know how to grow it ourselves. So, you it's okay to have a couple of secret recipes, so to speak, because especially if you're in a
Those
niche
are your
market.
patented tricks, yeah.
But you have to be generous with, and this is going out to all the business owners, especially
Mhm.
people who market informational
Okay.
products. The amateur assumes that they can only give away maybe 20 or 30% of their knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
because if they gave any more, then people would say, "Oh, good, I got everything. Now I don't have to pay him."
Yeah.
But
Like
in
the martial arts
reality,
instructor, perhaps I don't need them anymore.
exactly. But in reality, all that's doing is it making you appear as though you don't know that much, first off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And secondly, the people who actually do make the money give 99% of their stuff away for free, because people, you will make such an impact in their lives that people will have so much loyalty and
Oh,
admiration for you
absolutely.
that they will just
Absolutely.
pay you to keep
They would feel indebted
doing business with
naturally.
you.
Absolutely. I already feel indebted to you. My future children are going to shake your hand and thank you. No bullshit. Seriously. Because, this is what we're offering here, folks. And we're getting into the nitty gritty. The first episode was a little fragmented all over the place. Now we're starting to get into the sequential nature of what we're going to be tackling. And we're attacking first and foremost your limiting beliefs, the hows and whys, the you cans, these ideas. We're tackling that first, because when we get into this stuff, you're going to have some knowledge thrown your way that's going to be life-changing. It's going to be priceless. Priceless. Whether it's some stupid little thing you never thought of in that way, whether it's a specific trading technique, whether it's a market or a pool that's emerging, we're going to be discussing things that are going to help you. I hope, if you're resourceful enough to put this into use. But like you said, let's take it a step further, Herbie. Let's say if I keep working with you and I keep, and I'm a diligent student, I pick it up and I put it into practice and I'm rocking. Let's say I'm doing better than you.
No, you can't.
Someday
No.
I'm doing better than you.
Stop talking to you.
Let's say I'm doing better than you. Don't you think that would benefit your initial network, number one, to have people who are better than you at something? Don't you think that would add value to yourself and your self-esteem and your self-confidence, knowing that you could help people and change their lives the way that you've been doing? I mean, you got to feel good about yourself. This is charitable work.
I don't even want to be the top dog.
Changing people's lives.
I don't even want to be the top dog, because I like the fact, I'm comforted by the fact that if I can get people as good or even better than I am, then they can start watching my butt. And I'll give you a perfect example. We got a new guy in the program, Kirk, and I have a lot of admiration for him. He has experience as a businessman.
Nice.
He's done some training programs in the past.
Good.
He is not afraid to try new things, and
great.
And so I've probably spent about a month with him, probably a month and a half, I would say, and we were going through our watch list, and he saw something that I didn't see.
That's great.
That's great. And then another guy, Jim, who we just started working with, he's like, "Why don't you have this stock on your watch list?" And sure enough, I added it to my watch list. It's a great tradable, for what we do with our options and stuff. It had a lot. I'm like, why didn't I even have this on my watch list? So the whole thing is that investing and business are team sports. So it makes no sense to be the only one on the team with a decent level of skill, because you're going to get clobbered. So and that's really what it comes down to.
Absolutely. I mean, and like you said, that's our goal is, through these discussions and, and the guests we're going to invite on the show, which, like I said, we're very excited about. We've got some really great people that are just going to rock it, just blow your minds. As we do this, we're going to grow together. We are expecting input. We're expecting feedback. I want to learn from you guys. I know there's so many. We have a network of some really brilliant minds that I want to tap into, and I'm excited to learn from you. And we're just going to share value with each other. We're going to use our internal filter, see what can help us or what is applicable or usable in our lives. Adapt, and adept. You know, the whole Meiji restoration thing. Adopt what is good, adapt it to your own lifestyle and culture and investment strategies, and become adept. Become really good at it. Okay? Adopt, adapt, and adept. And in the martial arts world, we have a phrase that I feel would lend tremendous value to the world of investing if people just had a more hive mind mentality, whereas it's called iron sharpens iron. Okay, when you're training with somebody who's hard, iron, if you will, okay? They're going to temper you. They're going to forge you. They're going to shape you into what you need to be. I want to be surrounded by a bunch of bad motherfuckers. And in the world of martial arts, I want someone that could throw hands. I want someone that can grapple. I want all of those skill sets to come together and make a badass 1980s quality super force. All right?
Let's do it.
We're building a team that's going to be unstoppable. And everyone's going to have their value. Iron sharpens iron. Are you a piece of iron? Or are you a piece of shit? I don't know. Really. The last one I kept it raw. I told you, you can lay on the floor and die if you want, or you could be a piece of iron. Okay? Be the iron. Be hard, but in the Hungar world, we say iron silk or iron thread. Be strong. Be rooted in your morals and your principles, but be flexible. Be flexible enough to have these ideas come into your head, adopt them, adapt them, and become adept. Okay?
Awesome.
That's where we're at right now. And that's why we're so fucking pumped to have you guys on board for this show, because I'm getting excited. We have so much stuff to go over, and I'm happy that we got the chance to just kind of dissect this stuff, because this is the stuff that, like we had mentioned initially, we struggle with daily. We struggle with daily. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
That's why we're in the trenches with you, and we think that our advice hopefully has a little more curb appeal. Because this is the real deal. It doesn't get any realer than this. I got to go to work tonight. You know what I mean? I got to go to the gym still. You know, we're just regular folks doing it.
You should delegate that. You should have somebody work out for you.
I'm trying to, man. This caffeine is, just trying to get me going.
Yeah. I think we used it all here.
That's great. I love it.
All right. So very good. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is
Thanks,
the
everybody.
podcast. We're starting general. We're going to get more strategic as we go, and hopefully we can open up some new doorways for you. So thanks for joining in, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
I am looking
the likes, the shares, the comments, the feedback, the direct message, whatever. Just keep in touch. We want to start developing a legit relationship with you guys. See if we can help you. Let's hold hands and just march forward. Let's just do it. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate the time, Herbie. Killing it. We'll talk soon.
All right.